From the 8th United States Infantry, Forrest Bowler. William Brooks. From the 2nd U.S. Colored Troops Infantry, Jerry Carter. From the 1st United States Colored Infantry, Henry Clay. From the 6th United States Colored Infantry, Samuel Cobb. From the 1st United States Colored Infantry, Henry Cooper. From the 27th United States Colored Infantry, Thomas Crump. From the 1st United States Colored Infantry, from the 27th United States Colored Infantry, Fleming Crump. And this is serious here. This is my great-grandfather. From the 45th United States Colored Infantry, my grandfather, James Ellis. From the 27th United States Colored Infantry, Harrison Fabry. From the 5th United States Colored Infantry, Albert Frazier. Also from the 5th United States Colored Infantry, James Frazier. As well as the next two are 5th United States Colored Infantry, Peyton Fry and Robert Gray. From the 4th United States Colored Cavalry, Samuel Galley. From the 10th United States Colored Infantry, Charles Gordon. From the 27th United States Colored Infantry, Lewis Green. From the 45th United States Colored Infantry, Sonny Grimes. From the 23rd United States Colored Infantry that fought in Spotsylvania, Henry Hackett. From the 6th United States Artillery, John Harborough. From the 124th United States Colored Infantry, Essex Harrison. From the Navy, Oliver Harvard. From the 8th United States Colored Infantry, Henry Hill. From the 28th United States Colored Infantry, Alan Holloway. With the Confederate troops. And we're not asking anybody to tear anything down, but we can build another marker to honor our relatives, those who fought for freedom for all of us, that they were dedicated to the freedom of us all, regardless of race, color, creed. They fought for your literal freedom. They didn't fight for states' rights. They didn't fight for taxation without representation. They didn't fight for Jefferson Davis. They didn't fight for Robert E. Lee, turncoats of the war of the United States. They fought for you and I, and we had to dig into the courthouse. We had to go in the courthouse and pass a monument that honors some other individuals who fought against them. And yet we have no record to honor ourselves. So those who are running for city council or for the town council, that'll be the first thing I'm gonna ask you all, is to make sure we get a plaque to honor those individuals, those true freedom fighters who fought for us. And we're gonna do a little skit and kind of give you some more in-depth history, because this is a part of the military history that we don't get a lot of at all. I went to school in Virginia, and I never learned about anything related to United States Colored Troops in school. I never learned anything about black people fighting for their literal freedom. We were told that Abraham Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation, and we were free. We didn't know, we didn't learn that the Emancipation Proclamation only covered the Confederate States. That people were still enslaved in Maryland, 7 counties in Virginia, 14 parishes in Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, all those states that were still under the Union, they were still enslaved until January 1st, 1866, with the passing of the 13th and 14th Amendments. So as much as today we want to honor those individuals, we also want to honor the truth. And the truth is, we fought, died, lied, did whatever we needed to do to acquire our freedom, because that was important to us. So we want to honor those individuals today. And the first we're going to honor is an amazing story about a young man that grew up not too far from here. And his story is one for the record books, one that's recounted in periodicals in 1865, 1866, and kind of got lost in the history. So I bring before you Mr. Garland Mason. Garland White.
My name is Garland White. I was born into slavery in Henrico County, Virginia in 1829 to an enslaved woman named Nancy in my youth. I was sold to Robert Toombs, a Georgia lawyer who would go on to be a key player in the creation of the Confederacy. When Toombs was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1852, he moved to Washington, D.C. and took me with him. I seized the opportunity to build a life and achieve my freedom. In Washington, I became friendly with abolitionist Senator William Seward and was able to study and become a certified minister in September 1859. The next year, in 1860, I fled from Washington, D.C. to London, Ontario, Canada. I was appointed to the African Methodist Episcopal Church mission in October 1861.
Joseph Mayer, who officially surrendered the city to my commanding officer, General Godfrey Weitzel, on April 3, 1865. Once the fire had been extinguished with my regiment, the 28th United States Colored Troops was amongst the first U.S. troops to march into the city. The streets were lined mostly with free and enslaved African Americans. I was the head of my unit and had been prompted to give a speech to the people on Broad Street. It was here that I would recount in the African Methodist Episcopal Church newspaper, the Christian Recorder, the reunion with my mother after almost 20 years apart. After the war, my family and I lived in Indiana, Ohio, and later we moved to North Carolina. I continued my involvement in the church and got involved in politics in the mid-1870s. I ran as a Democratic representative for Congress in North Carolina's Black 2nd District before losing to my Republican opponent, John M. Simon. My work in Democratic politics caused tension with my community, eventually losing my post as pastor in Halifax, North Carolina. I continued to live in North Carolina until a respiratory illness I had contracted during the siege of Petersburg motivated me to move to Washington to receive an invalid pension in 1885. I lived and worked in the city until my death on July 5, 1894. I am buried in Arlington National Cemetery. I am Garland White.
And just to give you a synopsis on the great Garland White. Garland White was born in Henrico, Virginia, Ashland area. He was sold away when he was 10. Went all around the world, not all around the country, and ended up leading the winning cavalry, United States Colored Troops, Regiment 25, into Richmond. And when he was walking into Richmond, his mother said, "Is that my Garland?" 20 years of being separated. And his mother recognized, because you know how your mamas are, right? You can recognize your baby. No matter how long y'all been apart, you can recognize him. And he was literally came into the city to free his mother and all of the enslaved Africans throughout the United States. So Garland White is one of those great figures that we need to acknowledge and learn more about. And again, another person that we need to honor. Y'all took my spot. Major Garland White stories should be taught in every school in America. Don't you agree? He's a true and beloved and devoted patriot.
Major White was a part of what we called the Underground Railroad. Have any of y'all heard of that? They call me Charlie Wright, if that's my real name, from around Culpeper, Virginia. I was a part of an ultra-secretive group. Y'all heard of the KKK? Yeah. Okay, I wasn't a Klan member, or was I? Well, I was a part of the LLL.
The LLL. That's right. Anybody ever heard of the LLL? But y'all heard of the KKK? Okay. Well, the LLL preceded the KKK. And it's the LLL, the LL, or the 4 L's, the Lincoln League, the Laurel League, or the Lincoln Legal Laurel League?
The LLL. Did y'all all take a L?
We strategically took what some would call L's, some losses. The LLL was what some people would call today counterintelligence, clandestine services, or plain old spies, and double agents even.
Yeah, I was a spy, right? Charlie Wright. That's my real name. I was a part of a group that planned for the Civil War. That's right, we were planning. Our fathers were inspired by what happened in Haiti and the Great Resistance there. While everyone else was playing checkers, the LLLL was playing chess, utilizing rooks and knights like freedom fighter Gabrielle and Caroline, Hanover counties, and Richmond, and the great Nat Turner down in Jerusalem, Virginia. In his demonstration, not a rebellion, just a demonstration toward Pharaoh to let his people go. We had immigration conferences led by people like Dr. John S. Major Martin Delaney, Frederick Douglass, Anna Murray Douglass, David Ruggles, Mariah Stewart, Harriet Tubman, William Howard Day, and many other brave brothers and sisters. We knew we had to do something. The most famous black man of our day, Mr. George Latimer, when he ran away in the 1830s from a plantation in Norfolk, Virginia, and escaped to Boston. This brave and honorable man was arrested in Boston because of the Fugitive Slave Acts and was charged with, guess what he was charged with? He was charged with kidnapping himself. How in the world do you kidnap yourself?
George Latimer. Where do I know that name from?
Well, his son gave us life. His son, who was born in Massachusetts, is Louis Latimer.
So we position ourselves to be in league, sometimes forcing the hand of the Constitution to fit what we needed to do. For example, General George McCulloch in 1862, he almost ended the war with his Peninsula Campaign to charge into Richmond and end the Southern Uprising. Apparently, President Lincoln wanted General McCulloch to move swiftly and quickly to take Richmond and end the war without having to make any decisions on its enslaved citizens. Well, we just couldn't let that happen. So old General McCulloch got a report, a very accurate report I might add, with over 300, that the Confederates had over 100,000 soldiers right up here at Manassas, with over 3,000 or 300 cannons that were waiting for McClellan's army, the largest army in the Western world at the time.
Yep, it was 300 artillery trunks, or what we call Quaker guns, propped up to look like cannons. This gave time for Confederate General Joseph Johnston to put up a defense of Richmond and drive McClellan back, eventually gained as much ground as Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. President Davis was elated about the victory, but no one in his cabinet or household knew where that faulty report came from.
All right, so who gave the faulty information?
Okay. It was me.
You see, we played whatever side was going to give us freedom. So we did whatever we had to do to get that freedom.
Wow.
You see, almost every wealthy planner and officer for the Confederacy